so we can capture this conversation. So our first guiding question is if you're using the FCI report or not, and if you're not, then what is that barrier? So I'm going to open it right up to you guys. Do we have anybody that has never used the FCI report or hasn't been able to get a hold of it?
Hi, this is Robin Galloway from Henderson County, and I don't think that we've used it. We're a very large high school with approximately 2,100 kids in our building, and we have one person who is like the overseer of KAA, and so I'm leaving my office and going to go talk to her and ask about the report.
Awesome.
I will let you know, just because I'm Susie Burkhardt, I'm from Shelby County. I was just talking with our counselors because the KAA access is somewhat limited because of all the social security numbers, et cetera. But I found out yesterday that I'm the college and career coordinator. I'm actually the person that's FCI. I have a login for the FCI report. I'm not the person that has the single login for Keys Money, blah, 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 blah. So there may be a way to get you to be just the person that could do the FCI while your counselor can do, or whoever wants to be the sole person for that. So I think they'll give you one login for the FCI piece. And so I just found out that I'm the person that has that login in our district, but I'm working on figuring out how to get that.
Hello, I'm Ashley from Holmes High School, and I know that personally I have never looked at the FCI report, and I don't know that any of our counselors have either. So I know we'd definitely be interested in figuring out how to use that, I believe. So.
I'm Jennifer, and I am recording our things right now. I know that we have access, but my counseling partner who had access just retired, so I have to figure out how we can access it now.
And that's typically, I feel like what I've seen. I've been a college coach at like 2 different schools before, and that seems to be something that happens a lot, is like someone who did have the information then either moved to a different school or like moved on somewhere else, and that trickle down of like new information didn't really happen. The good part is that it's out there. It's just about making those connections, and that's what this is for. Does anybody else have any more or anything else they'd like to say on our guiding question 1 before we move over to guiding question 2? I'll actually share my screen here too, so we can see what we're typing. Okay, so guiding question 2, if you're using the FCI report, how are you using it? And what has been most helpful when using it? So do we have anybody that has been accessing that report and using it to their benefit? I just saw somebody come off mute, but I can't tell if they're. Hey, Whitney, I don't think we can hear you. Pop it in the chat. I know me personally, when I was using it, I really enjoyed it to cross-reference from my own caseloads and like cohorts of students that I had.
Who is speaking, please?
Yeah, but it says anonymous cat. It's like, who's that? Is there anyone that has used the report in this group, or are we all folks that haven't used it before. Because if we're all just folks that haven't used it before, and this is a great opportunity to really know, like, okay, let's get that in our hot little hands. Yeah, use it to cross-reference with caseload. That's been probably one of the most helpful tools for me, especially if you are someone specifically in like college coaching and you have that like cohort of students that you're helping along that process. But especially for those, like it was mentioned, those free and reduced students, knowing who hasn't and then getting able to match those specifically up with like when those KAA representatives and your people come into your school to help. So let's move on to number 3. So when it comes to, since this one doesn't have to do with the FCI, this is just about the FAFSA specifically, what obstacles do your students face when it comes to completing the FAFSA?
Parents who do not want to help or do not know where their information is.
I think a lot of our kids have like struggle with kind of unique situations. You know, they're living with a grandparent or they don't have, you know, their parents are still technically their guardians, but that's not who they're living with. So a lot of different family situations seem to be what hold our kids up.
Our students who are DACA, DACA students, that's a challenge. And there's also some challenge with just understanding verification and what they need to do for verification. I think sometimes when our high school students submit it, they're like, it's done, and they check it off and they don't read their emails. They don't see that it wasn't complete or that they have a verification status. That seems to be a really big part for our kids. I don't even know if I fully understand what they need to do for verification. The other thing for in Shelby County is students who may be undocumented. So we have our DACA students, but we also have students who may be undocumented that are expressing interest in going to college. And my understanding is they cannot apply for financial aid, federal financial aid, but just kind of that general understanding is challenging.
So like a generalized increase in like information around how do we help those, you know, specific demographic of students.
Sort of like if you can't apply for FAFSA, if you fall under one of these categories and you do not qualify for federal aid, what are some other options maybe for you?
Yeah.
But our DACA students, from my understanding, can apply. That's my current understanding. That doesn't mean it's right.
I'm not sure if she's, I know we had Katie in here. I don't know, Katie, if you can speak to the DACA students.
Let me double check, but that sounds correct, but let me double check.
I was thinking when the person shared about the special situations, I think we probably all have that happening at our schools, but it sort of clicked with me of maybe partnering with my family resource center coordinator on that, because they may know ahead of time students that are living in different situations, students that are homeless, that are living with family members, et cetera, that may not have access to their parents who are still their guardians. So I'm thinking about maybe in September being proactive and connecting with the family resource center coordinator to get a head start on some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've personally even had that student before that was like, I'm living with somebody who's not a guardian. I don't necessarily have access to my guardians who signs off on that FAFSA. And I only knew about that student because I happened to be positioned in the, you know, the youth service center office during that period. So they can be a huge help, and especially using that report to connect with like, okay, these students haven't, you know, completed their FAFSA, but they've maybe shown interest in wanting to go to college. Connecting with that, you know, Frisky coordinator to see, do you know if these students have those barriers? Okay, so we have yes, DACA students with social security numbers can complete the FAFSA. We also have someone in the chat, Whitney, had someone last year that was documented, but parents were undocumented, so it was a barrier. And I believe like when the parents are undocumented, you can, or they don't have the social, that's when you put in like the zeros, or there's something specific to put in for the parents. But a lot of times just not even having that knowledge, yeah, it can be a barrier. You have parents even that are afraid to like put their information on a government form. Is there a process to check in verification to see who is getting verified? That might be another question Katie can help us out on. I don't know if there's a way that you can check specifically if there's like a list of who's getting verified or anything at your school. But I know that a lot of those verifications go through KIA or maybe the specific institution. And if it's a KIA verification, then sometimes assistance with that can just be as simple as contacting that outreach counselor and handling any questions that you might have there.
We are working on adding verification to this FCI report in hopes that you will be able to see if students are chosen for verification. So we're hoping that that is coming as soon as possible because I know that is, yeah, verification is not over till it's over. So you definitely want to know what students are getting verified. So we are in the process of working on adding verification to this.
Katie, do you mind to give like just a quick commercial of exactly what verification is and how students end up with that?
Sure.
And I'm sorry if that's a 101 question, but that will
No, that's okay. Not at all. So verification is essentially students put information on the FAFSA. We hope it's correct. We think it's correct, but we don't always have the proof to know either way. So verification can be chosen at the federal level. So when you submit the FAFSA, some things may pop up right away. Social security number issues, things like that automatically come up when you submit the FAFSA. Or a university, college or university can choose certain verification items. It could be verifying the number of people in the household. If you say 12 people live in your house, they probably want to make sure that that was supposed to be a 12 and not a 2. There's verification based on income. So needing additional tax documents. If you manually used manually put in tax information and didn't put it in using the IRS retrieval tool, that tends to be chosen for verification. Things like marriage or divorce since filing your taxes, that tends to pull for verification. So there's a statement of educational purpose. I mean, there's a lot of things that could pull for verification, but it could be from the federal government or it could be from the university. Now, there's several universities in Kentucky that utilize KIA for verification.
All right, folks are making their way back.